Welcome, everybody. We are officially live here. I'm going to give everyone a second to settle in. I wanted to go ahead and talk about today's press conference because it was obviously an important one due to where this team is moving forward. And obviously, you make a trade like that on a Friday. Initially, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were not going to talk to the press conference. Initially, they declined. And that's partially because they do that as far as like before this trade happens. They talk to the media. The questions are going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo. What's going to happen with number 10 moving forward? And once they made that trade on Friday, that showed what they were going to do with number 10 moving forward. Um, and so, yeah, we're going to get into it. The press conference did sound a little bit like Fields, and I really hope that's where they're going. I do got to do my due diligence more on Trey Lance because I'm a little close-minded on him. I want to open that up a little more because I understand there is crazy amount of talent there with Trey Lance. But initially, they weren't going to do it. They went ahead and decided to have the press conference, and that's the thing you do after a trade like this. Uh, I think it's very respectful. They said as soon as the trade was happened, before it was announced to the public, the first thing Kyle Shanahan did was call Jimmy Garoppolo and let him know. There's been plenty of cases of when players have been traded and they found out on social media or some other big move has happened in their exact position and they found out on social media. Um, let's see here. I have comments off on YouTube. I'm not sure if that's. I see a couple of comments here on YouTube, so I'm not sure where exactly that would be coming from. Hopefully that does get fixed here because I know I did allow comments. If that's continuing to happen, if you have any type of way to get a hold of me, let me know, and I could just go on YouTube real quick and try to figure that out. But looking back on it, they basically said we're taking a quarterback at 3, and that's why we went ahead and did this. It wasn't. They did not sugarcoat it. They did not sugarcoat it. So I know after this trade was made, there were some people out there saying, "Hey, yeah, maybe they're gonna go get Sewell, or they're gonna go and do something else crazy." But obviously, they limited any type of that discussion moving forward to the draft because I'm glad they did. If I had to hear Sewell at 3 one more time and someone was being legit serious about it, I probably would have lost it. And I'm glad I ain't got to lose it now. Um, does it suck for Jimmy? I guess. The best thing he could do here is just what Deebo Samuel says all the time on his Instagram lives: control what you can control, and he can control what he can control by just going out there and playing football, whether you're a 49er or not. As far as sounds like the 3 are going to be Fields, Mac, and Trey Lance. Those sound like the 3. Based on what Kyle Shanahan has said. And they're gonna go see Mac tomorrow. And they're doing their due diligence. I don't think Mac is the number 1 guy on there, but Kyle loves pocket passers. He illustrated that today, talking about guys' athletic ability, be able to create plays off script, and do stuff like that. And then he went back into, but they got to be able to manage the pocket. And that's why you look at a Mac Jones because he's probably the best one in the draft, outside of second of Trevor Lawrence. Like I'm talking about just Mac, Lance. Um, Wilson's up there as well, but he's going to be a New York Jet. He's going to be a New York Jet. And Fields. So between Fields and Lance, it's Mac has the best pocket presence. He does. That's why you go look at him if you're Kyle Shanahan. Um, and they're going to go ahead and do that tomorrow. And Kyle Shanahan also illustrated in his press conference that, yeah, they're not going to be at the Ohio State Pro Day, but he already talked to David Malugata, who is Justin Fields' agent, that they're going to set up a separate pro day, basically a separate throwing session. They're probably going to get into, into his mind and throw some stuff on board. Kyle's probably going to throw some stuff at him and see what Justin Fields would do in certain situations, have more of that one-on-one meeting than just go to a public pro day. I think that's why Kyle doesn't like pro day so much, is because he's such a nerd. He is a nerd, a football nerd. I'm a football nerd. If you're, one of the people watching the show, you're a 49ers nerd. But with Kyle Shanahan, when you're in a more public setting, like you don't want to show all your cards. If you show like you're really interested in this guy, other teams are going to know that. So that's why you create these private meetings, and trading up to the number 3 pick is why you're able to do that now. And that's what it is with Mac Jones. Because Alabama had their pro day last week. So this is a separate session with Mac Jones, and Kyle Shanahan said he's going to do that with Fields. And then let's see, it was Matt Barrows that Nick is alluding to right here. He broke the news that the 49ers are going to have a private session with Trey Lance as well. So those are going to be one of the 3 that the 49ers pick. It's nobody else. It's not going to be Sewell. What's up, Nate? How's it going? Do you guys have any questions in regards to the press conference? Did something rub you the wrong way? Did something not? Is there something that you think is clear and obvious in a certain way, that you think Shanahan is leading? Trey Lance. I have noticed that there's quite a bit of Trey Lance fans within the 49ers fan base. It's kind of like Trey Lance or Justin Fields, and that's where I am as well. It's Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and then Mac Jones would be third for me. But if you're Shanahan and you preach pocket presence, you got to go ahead and check out the guy with the most pocket presence. And what I loved about today's press conference is they were so transparent in all their answers. We've seen so many times where it was kind of, not really transparent. You were left with a bunch of questions, and a lot of people blame the media, saying, man, why did they ask these softball questions? Why didn't you ask them any harder? Well, they asked them the hard stuff today, and the 49ers were transparent with the hard stuff. And when you could do that, that's what you get excited about in the offseason. You want transparency in the offseason. So another one is like, what happens with Jimmy? Seems like everyone's okay with bringing number 10 back, with a rookie. Seems like everyone's on board with if Jimmy Garoppolo starts week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Seems like they're very confident if he's healthy, because I don't count QB wins as a thing, but it is something to look at when he does suit up. He is able to manage the game, and the way this roster is built, if you have someone that can manage the game, you're going to win a lot of football games, and that's what happened with the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't so much of a game manager back in 2017. He won those games. He was a game manager in 2019 and 2020. That's why they were able to go beat the Patriots still, be able to go beat the Rams still with his high ankle sprain. They were still able to get those big wins when they needed them. So that's why you're confident if you still go with Garoppolo week 1, is they're a winning football team. They're probably going to be in the playoffs. But my preference is, and if you select a Fields, if you select a Lance, I want to see them week one. That's just out of straight selfishness. I do want to see them week one because the playbook is going to be completely different than a Jimmy Garoppolo in there. And I think that's going to be hard. Like, are you going to have Jimmy Garoppolo and install a playbook as Jimmy Garoppolo as your starter and then give this rookie, if it's Trey Lance or Justin Fields, if it's Mac Jones, you're giving him the same playbook as Jimmy Garoppolo. That's why I'm not bringing him up in this. But if it's Trey Lance or Justin Fields, you're gonna have like a 25% of a completely new plays installed. So it's like their play styles are completely different than a Jimmy Garoppolo. So you're gonna have to get this rookie up to speed, just in case if he needs to come in. You're gonna have to get him up to speed into the Jimmy Garoppolo playbook, and then have to give him another playbook on top of that. That's why I say I'm selfish to where if it's a Fields or a Lance, I want those guys starting week one. It's nothing personal on Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just they're different play styles. You're gonna have different playbooks, different play calls. There's going to be different things you call in the red zone. There's going to be different things you call on a 3rd and 5. With Jimmy Garoppolo, you could probably have your 3 wide receiver. I was going to say Trent Taylor, but he's not on the team no more. I was going to say Kendrick Bourne. He's not on the team no more. But you could have your slant or your slot receiver go ahead and run an in route, whether it's a slant, whether it's a drag or it's something on a 3rd and 5. You could do that with Jimmy Garoppolo. With Fields or a Lance, you could run some RPO and maybe they bust out a 20-yard run. So that's the difference within the play calls. That's why I get a little selfish with it. It's are you gonna have to have the rookies like play double duty on that? So let's go ahead and get this in from CSL in the casino. Question/comment. Everyone knows Fields and Lance has great film and relatively similar skill set. I wonder which has the worst bad film and which one makes the most mistakes. I'll say this. It's let me take a sip of my drink here. I'll say this. Yeah, similar skill set for sure. I like I said, I gotta watch more Trey Lance. I gotta watch more Justin Fields. I've only seen X amount of games because when the 49ers were at pick 12, I didn't want to play Fantasyland and just fall in love with these quarterbacks and watch so much film. So I watched just a little bit amount, and with watching more, I'm able to see the differences. So far, I'm one game within Trey Lance that I'm fully dissecting by myself without other outside opinions. I'm about 3 games in Justin Fields that I'm dissecting by myself without other outside opinions. And so that's a very small sample size to go off of. But based on that small sample size, it seems like Justin Fields had that offensive line at Ohio State was awful. And you think Ohio State, you think Big Ten, you think that offensive line isn't enough to compete. You think they might have a tackle selected in the first round. They may have like 3 guys that are day 2 picks from the offense. No, the receivers are really good. I'll say that the receivers are really good, but the offensive line was awful. So it's just really hard to compare and contrast. You can evaluate what a guy does with the terrible offensive line, which Justin Fields balled the hell out and overcame that in all but 1 game, essentially. There with Trey Lance, he seems to have better sense of pressure within the pocket. Seems like he senses it sooner, and he's smooth within he's more smooth within the pocket to where he could just take a step up, and now that guy's not on him so much compared to seems like Justin Fields. He kind of gets more erratic when he senses the pressure. Instead of like a smooth step up, or it's more like a jump forward. And then that little jump gets him into another defender. And then he takes another jump, and then he gets into another defender. So he's more jumpy within the pocket compared to Trey Lance. Seems to be more smooth with his feet. um, as far as navigating within the pocket. Now, like I said, that's just very brief of watching the film and dissecting these on a solo opinion. And um, now I'm gonna have to ramp that up. Obviously, with the number 3 overall pick, I'm gonna have to go ahead and ramp that up. But that's something I've noticed between the two. Which which ones to that makes more mistakes? I say that Justin Fields is better pre-snap. That's why he gets a lot of that narrative first read passer, is because he's pretty good at dissecting the defensive coverage and going with that guy that he decides to go with on a pre-snap read. He seems to be a little better at that, a little ahead of Trey Lance, and Trey Lance kind of sticks on that guy that first read a little longer than Justin Fields, and also Fields is his receivers, they run different concepts to where it's quite a bit of option routes within the Ohio State passing tree, to where Trey Lance, the receivers are more clear cut. So I'm still, I'm gonna have guests on that have seen a lot of more film than I have on these two guys. And when those guests are on, we could go ahead and get in this whole Trey Lance versus Justin Fields thing. But I think both of them can be special. I think Justin Fields has a higher floor when you look at the higher, I think Lance could have a floor of like a Jake Locker, but then he could have a ceiling of what we just saw with Josh Allen, maybe even better. So that's the thing, is when you start comparing floors, start comparing ceilings. I think Lance. I said their ceilings are pretty similar, but I think Lance might have a higher ceiling after watching a few games. We'll see. I gotta watch more into it. Um, Basically what RJ said. Anyone but Jones. I'm the same way. Like I was a Jones stan. Like I like Jones, but I liked him at 12, not 3, especially when you traded up for it. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you, Elijah. But his best comment: you want a QB who can win in the pocket first, and if he could be mobile, that is what you build. Well, at 3, you can get that. Yeah, true. At 3, you can get that. And I think this is why I don't think Mac Jones is the guy, based on the press conference today. He alluded onto guys having some athleticism, and those guys with the athleticism, they're not bad from the pocket. They were pretty good. We seen Fields; he could sling it. Some of you, maybe all of you, have seen Lance by now. He can sling it. He's pretty smooth within the pocket. I think he needs to get better with his reads pre-snap, but with feeling pressure, he is pretty smooth. Um, and with Fields' reads, I think he's smooth on that. He just needs to not stop being so jumpy when he feels pressure. So these guys are pocket passers, Lance and Fields. That's why I don't think you go with Mac Jones. It's based on what the comments we've heard from Kyle Shanahan today. He said everybody wants a Mahomes. Everybody wants Mahomes. Obviously, not everyone could get a Mahomes, but everyone wants Mahomes. What he means by that is someone that's fantastic from the pocket and someone that has athleticism if things break down. Obviously, the Super Bowl was just something crazy, to where not even a Mahomes could overcome that. But then you look at the Super Bowl he played against the 49ers, which all of us remember too well, that I'm sure some of us hope that we can forget about one day. He got dominated for 3 quarters, but then it's that 1 quarter. That's what a player like with mobility. It's, you could create that perfect pressure, and then he's able to, get out and run for a first down. Mac Jones ain't going to do that at the next level. He was maybe able to do that at Alabama playing against a team like Arkansas, but he's not going to do that in the NFL, at least not too often. Um, Shanahan literally described Fields as a guy he wants, a dual threat who could be both a pocket passer and a run/extend when the play doesn't go as planned. Yeah, Shanahan mentioned a quarterback being off script, and I think that was a lot of the narrative with Kyle Shanahan is, Would he want a quarterback that's off script? Some people were like, no, because Shanahan's, such a genius within his own play calls. He wants everyone to stick within that play call, and he doesn't want anything off script. Like people have said in the past, he would go crazy with Kyler Murray because Kyler Murray does a lot of stuff off script. Shanahan said he said he sees that as a positive. He sees it as a positive when someone could create something off script. So if he sees that as a positive, that's Trey Lance, that's Justin Fields. He said mobility is a positive. Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Pocket passer. Well, those guys could do it too. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and then Mac Jones. That's where Mac Jones gets involved. But yeah, based on this presser, it sounds like it's between those two, and then you got to do your due diligence on Mac Jones because that's what you do at the NFL. You can't just fall in love with one guy. Like, what if they fell in love with Deshaun Watson and committed to those assets? Now look what happens. At least with this, they have different alternatives that they can go through than being stuck on one guy. So that's why you do a throwing session with Mac Jones. That's why you do a throwing session with Lance. That's why you do one with Fields. But it did sound a lot like it's either Fields or Lance. Who has a recent injury between those two QBs, Lance and Fields? We don't need an injury-prone player. So like Fields got banged up this year at Ohio State. I wouldn't call him injury prone at all. He's pretty built. He's like a smaller Cam Newton. He's got a really good size. Lance is a little more bigger, but Fields is he's a lot bigger than Wilson. If we're talking about potential injuries, I'm not going to call someone injury prone if they haven't taken a snap in the NFL. I don't even like to call Jimmy Garoppolo injury prone, even though he's missed quite a few seasons. Just because it's like no one has that control over injuries. If someone had control over injuries, then it would be like Madden with injuries turned off. Nobody would ever get hurt. It's just one of those things that are out of everyone's control. But if we're looking based on physical traits to where someone could be more limited to getting hurt, then I would say they're both fine. I don't think you have to worry about injuries with either one. So that's not a concern. Like, yeah, Fields got banged up this year. That's because his offensive line just kind of left him out there. He like it was bad. Just go watch some Ohio State games and see how many times he's getting pressured. See how many times there's a guy in his face before the receiver's even out of his route. So yeah, I would say that was more of an offensive line thing, which the offensive line was a conversation last year with the 49ers. This year, it should not be a problem. You got Trent Williams, you got Lincoln, you got Alex Mack now. Brunskill maybe, or they could go with someone in the draft because it is loaded at interior offensive lineman. But I'll say Brunskill for now, and then Mike McGlinchey. Yes, Mike McGlinchey does lose sometimes, but he's the same guy in 2019 where Jimmy Garoppolo didn't miss a snap due to injury in 2019. McGlinchey was the same way. So McGlinchey's, pass blocking woes during situational times is not gonna worry me about a quarterback getting hurt. What's up, Esteban? My dream pick would be Wilson with Justin Fields' size. That's who my dream pick would be if it was Wilson with Justin Fields' size. That's who I would be going with. But Wilson doesn't have Justin Fields' size, and it doesn't feel like Justin Fields has Wilson's natural throwing ability. Wilson could just flick his wrist, and that thing's freaking 60 yards downfield to where Fields has more of a wind up that he has to go through. So, but if I had to choose between one of them two, I'm going to say Fields because I do think his size and his stature means more in the NFL than Wilson. So yeah, Fields had the most starts out of the three quarterbacks. I do think that's something to take into consideration. I'm not gonna let that be my end all be all when considering these three quarterbacks. Because say if I reverse it and Fields had 17 starts. Say if they were all even, Fields would probably still be my favorite. But yeah, he does have a little bit of edge with that because you have 5 more games on film to dissect than the other 2 quarterbacks. And I would also like to say Fields didn't transfer because he lost a quarterback job at Georgia to Jake Fromm. Fields left Georgia because he was the better quarterback, but he was not starting because of politics. They're not going to sit Jake Fromm because of this freshman that just came in that's fresh out of high school. They're not going to sit Jake Fromm for that. So they decided to stick to their guns, keep Jake Fromm because he was the previous starter for was it the past 2 years going into that season. That rubbed Justin Fields the wrong way, and that's ultimately why he transferred, not because of not because he lost the job. He didn't lose the job. It was politics. Looks like Fields is better at his deep balls, but Lance has a cannon. I don't know. Yeah, Fields tends to be more accurate, which is key when throwing a deep pass because you can have a cannon, but if you're if you're not accurate, then what the fuck you got a cannon for? So, yeah. Fields is definitely a more accurate downfield passer. There is from a game that I'm watching on Trey Lance, it seems like there has been multiple times to where it was a pass past 40 yards, and a couple of them it was passer interference, so they were still able to pick up the first down, but the pass wasn't completed, and it wasn't even close to being completed. It was about 10 yards away from where the wide receiver was supposed to be. But then you could also get in the debate like, oh, did the passer interference stop him from getting there? Personally, it didn't look like it, but that would be my concern because he does have a cannon, but it is a little inaccurate. You will see some clips in there. It's kind of like low hanging fruit when you do that. So where Lance is able to just get like a rainbow shot in there and it's a perfect and accurate deep ball. But there's a reason why the completion percentage is lessened when the pass is beyond 40 yards from the line of scrimmage, because it's a harder pass to make. But I would have to tend to agree that Fields is more accurate downfield than Lance. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of I prefer Lance. I understand. So that's why I want to dive a little bit more in on Lance and cover it all without having anyone else's opinion making my decision. So far through 1 game of Lance and 3 games of film, that's just me watching by myself, not with other people. I've seen more than that, but just watching by myself and having my own opinion on that. It's I'm going with Fields right now as my preference. Fields already has connections with Shanahan and Lynch and is basically a Russell Wilson clone. Yeah, he has those connections with Shanahan through that QB collective, and Shanahan mentioned that today. Shanahan said that he was at one camp when Justin Fields was, I think he said 16 or 17, and he did make a joke in there saying he'd hope he doesn't get fined for it because he wasn't a head coach yet. But Shanahan is very close with those people at the QB collective, so maybe if he was there for just one, he's going to have a full understanding of the player Justin Fields is and the quarterback mind of Justin Fields. So that is something to write home on. Shanahan's going to have an advantage when evaluating Justin Fields, and if the guys he trusts, that he takes his time to go out there and train these high school kids, he's going to trust their evaluation. And seeing everything I've seen from Fields so far, nothing leads me to believe why Shanahan will dislike Fields. Not enough competition for Lance. Yeah, that's fair. That's really fair because with Lance, it's kind of he was at the Alabama of the FCS schools. If you want to look at it that way, and he was like Alabama playing against Mississippi State every Saturday. It wasn't very many Alabama LSU matchups. If you want to look at it that way from the FCS perspective. Um, so yeah, competition. It's always stated: scout the player, not the school. Scout the player, not the school. Um, but there is a hell of a lot of open passes and pre-snap reads that are just wide the hell open. I would have liked to see him against better competition. It didn't have to be him against Ohio State. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I want to see him against Wisconsin, him against Penn State. I'm not saying that because obviously Wisconsin, Penn State, and Ohio State are going to beat North Dakota State. I don't want that. I just wanted more of a competitive game day matchup as far as DBs on his receivers, safeties on his tight ends, edge rushers on his tackles, things like that. Competition, not necessarily him playing against a better school, just better one-on-one matchups. That's what I would have liked to see. But who knows? I could get there. The press conference was certainly deceptive. LOL, smoke and mirrors. Yeah, there was. Yeah, they didn't want to show their hand on which quarterback for sure. I think they showed their hand of they would like Fields or Lance, but they want to see more of them from their pocket presence. That's why Shanahan made sure to mention that when talking about mobility. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's Mac Jones, but who knows? That's what RJ said here. I need to stop getting my hopes up for us to try. It's not gonna happen. It's not. It's not gonna happen. He's not taking Mac Jones. Fields and Lance are good. They're good from the pocket. Obviously, they got to grow because they're going to be rookies in the NFL. There's going to be more excited looks pre-snap. They're going to be playing brain games pre-snap. Everything's not going to be as clear cut as it was in college. So, like, there's stuff you gotta grow from a mental standpoint, and we'll see. They'll get there eventually. So, but I think they're good enough to where Shanahan doesn't settle on a guy that has no mobility, basically, in Mac Jones. Yeah, I'm catching up to these comments here. My internet's acting a little weird. So bear with me while I catch up to this one. This one, it seems like it's taking forever to transition into Nick's comment here. Do you think Kyle will take a look at Landon Dickerson while he is at Alabama's pro day? Is it important to get a young center to develop with a young QB? So I was actually talking with Dieter Kurtenbader earlier today on his locker room app, and so when we were talking, I was saying, hey, like him looking at and going Kyle Shanahan going to Alabama doesn't necessarily have to be for only Mac Jones. It could be for this guy right here, Dickerson, because Dickerson, someone who's played all through the offensive line. He's played left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. And right now with Alex Mack, Dickerson's not going to start at center. If Alex Mack is healthy, which you would want him to be healthy, could Dickerson start at right guard and then transition to center? Maybe. I think he can. The kid's talented and he's got good size on him. So I don't think it's necessarily look going to Alabama and looking just at only Mac Jones or having a conversation with only Mac Jones. He can certainly go to Alabama and have a conversation with Landon Dickerson because that kid is a stud. And if you can get him at pick 43, I think that could be it could be a steal, but this draft class is so deep. If you could get a Kendrick Green at pick 43, I I it's a, or at not pick 43, but he's going in like the fourth round, third round early or at earliest. But we'll see. I like Landon Dickerson a lot because he's a guy that you can insert day one at right guard to start, and then once Alex Mack hangs it up, he could go and be your center of the future. So I think that's a great question comment here by Nick. It's yeah, absolutely. There's no reason. Plus, you gotta re-energize that conversation with Nick Saban. 49ers have not drafted anyone at Alabama since Reuben Foster. Why? Because they felt like they were lied to about Reuben Foster's personality at Alabama. It's not that they don't like Alabama's players, is that they felt disrespected by Saban and the evaluation they gave their front office and their scouts of the personal evaluation of Reuben Foster. They knew what they were getting as Reuben Foster as the player. That's why they made that trade. But they also made that trade because of the personal evaluation that Nick Saban gave them about Reuben Foster. And since that evaluation was way off and Nick Saban was just basically hyping up Reuben Foster for him to get drafted as early as possible, that raved a red flag to that front office and coaching staff. When I say coaching staff, I'm talking about Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, because that's definitely sticking with Robert Saleh considering he was a defensive player. So maybe we'll see more Alabama players getting drafted in the future if they could rekindle that relationship with Nick Saban. That's partially why you do it, because as I was talking to Dieter Kurtenbacher today, Bill Belichick has a close relationship with Nick Saban, and Kyle Shanahan has a close relationship with Bill Belichick. And if you could have that triangle of Kyle Shanahan, Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick, that's a triangle that you want to fucking stay in. That's a solid triangle to be in. And excuse me for my language if you're watching this with any of your kids around. So yeah, as Elia basically said, that's a great question by Nick right there, and I think Nick is spot on with that question. Wide receiver on the same page. Hey, I need to get you in here, dog. I really do. I just know you're at work right now and you ain't got no camera. Come on, man. It's someone go on Amazon and send Nate a link. Drop a link right here for Nate so that he could get a camera on Amazon and he could finally have that camera at work, and I could hop on this with Nate and talk 49ers football all day long. I balance well Nate because Nate's always screaming and I'm so monotone like if I'm in a library. So that's about my guys. We need help Belching Beaver pretty soon here. I'm definitely in love with Wilson, but I think Kyle and John talked to Solid whether the Jets are. Yeah, Jets are taking Wilson. That's why you're not going to see me mention Wilson here. Jets are saying the three quarterbacks. I have to go back and double check, but I think he mentioned the number 3. Why would he? He didn't say 5. He actually did bring up 5. He did bring up 5. That 5 is Trevor Lawrence. 49ers aren't getting Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson. That's why he mentioned 3. And Kellen Mond's not taking one of those 3 spots. Davis Mills ain't taking one of those 3 spots. Kyle Trask ain't taking one of those 3 spots. So, yeah, Zach Wilson, Jets, lock it up. All your mock draft. If you're in a mock draft with some buddies, got some money on it, put Zach Wilson to the Jets. He ain't going. Jets aren't letting. That's why it was released by Ian Rappaport, I believe. 49ers had conversations for pick 5, pick 4, pick 3, but they didn't have any conversations with pick 1 and 2. Why the hell would Kyle Shanahan not have a conversation with Robert Saleh about pick 2? Why? Because they like Panay Sewell too much? No. They just took a left tackle last year, and he was fantastic for the Jets this year. Because they're going to get Jamar Chase? No. Because they're going to get Kyle Pitts? No. It's because they're getting Zach Wilson. That's why. They didn't have a conversation with the Jags because the Jags are getting Trevor Lawrence. That's why. Definitely feel like Lynch and Shanny know who Robert Saleh and the Jets are taking. It seems like they aren't taking Wilson, at least from the. I think they are. I just said this. I think they are. I wish they weren't. I'll tell you this. If they were not taking Wilson, they wouldn't have this separate meeting with Mac Jones. Because Wilson's fantastic from the pocket. He may be better than Mac Jones from the pocket. Maybe better than Mac Jones. Wilson's fantastic from the pocket. So they wouldn't be going at Alabama, all the way to Alabama, Santa Clara to Alabama, San Jose to Alabama. They would not be doing that if Wilson was on the board. If Wilson was on the board, they would be going to just Wilson, Fields, and Lance. That's it. They wouldn't go to Mac Jones. Simply said. Mauricio, what's up, my guy? What are the chances Jimmy G pulls a hard and forces I think there's a chance. I really do. From what I understand, Jimmy's not happy. Jimmy is not happy. So there's a chance that Jimmy G can try to force his way out, but I don't know how much leverage he has. You try and force your way out, and then what if nobody wants that contract? James Harden could force his way out because he's James Harden. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA player. He's an MVP. Teams are going to eat up that contract. Even a team like the Nets. Even the team like the Nets that have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving. Shout out to my natives. See me representing it here. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not an MVP. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's not an All-Pro. He's a good quarterback. I think he's good. He's limited. That's why the 49ers made this move, is because he's limited with availability and limited in downfield passing. But he's good. He's good. He's probably top 15, top 18 quarterback, but Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch understand how hard it is to win a Super Bowl with the top 15 and a top 18 quarterback. They understand the difficulties. John Lynch has played it. Kyle Shanahan has coached it for many of years. Kyle Shanahan's dad has coached it for many years. The only time his dad has won a Super Bowl is when he had a Hall of Fame quarterback in John Elway. Jimmy Garoppolo is not John Elway. So they understood it was time to move on and get another crack at it. So yes, Lance he's a project, 100%. He is a project. But if they're comfortable with rolling out Jimmy G, that means they're comfortable with the project. If they're comfortable with Jimmy G, they are comfortable with the project. The only thing that gets tricky is the Patriots love Jimmy G as much as Kyle Shanahan loves Kirk Cousins. To where the Patriots say, hey, fuck it, 49ers, we'll give you a 2022 first-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. 49ers don't have their 2022 first-round pick, so they're making that trade. What makes that difficult is if Trey Lance has to start. And a lot of people think that Trey Lance is good to start now. A lot of people think Trey Lance is more NFL ready than Justin Fields. Scout the player, not the school. But the teams he plays against, they don't run exotic pre-snap defensive looks. They don't. That's why Trey Lance didn't throw any interceptions his first year at North Dakota State. It's what you see is what you get at the FCS level. In the NFL, that's not going to be true. So if the guy's starting week 1, there's going to be a learning curve. Carson Wentz came from North Dakota. He was a pretty good NFL quarterback. At least pre ACL, he was pretty good. He was solid. He had an MVP year. He was whatever his rookie year. Took him a year. It'll take Trey Lance a year. And if it takes Trey Lance a year, then you need Jimmy Garoppolo to start. But it makes it hard to draft Trey Lance with the possibility of the Patriots being so much in love that they could hang a first-round pick on you, which I think they'll do. Patriots gave up a first-round pick in the past to take Brandon Cooks. They gave up a first-round pick in the past for Brandon Cooks. So I'm going to leave that possibility that they'll take one for or throw one out for Jimmy Garoppolo. So yeah, Justin Fields was in high school when Kyle Shanahan was with him at that QB collective. Yeager, absolutely. I think we're getting a superstar either way. I really do, because I think it's going to be Trey Lance or Justin Fields, and if Trey Lance is sitting a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's going to be a superstar. He needs that year to learn pre snap defenses. Those exotic looks where they change it up on you like that. That's where you make it and breaking it in this league as a quarterback. Fields or Wilson. Like I said, I think Wilson's gone to the Jets, but man, oh my God, if Wilson's on the board, you didn't hear a private meeting with Wilson, did you? There's a private meeting with Jones, one being set up with Lance, one being set up with Fields. There's been nothing about Wilson in a private meeting. They were at the pro day. That's different. That's different. That's public. Okay, so we already Mauricio, stop with the Mac Jones season. How cerebral is Mac Jones? I think Mac Jones is probably the most in this draft. I think he's the most. Because of his anticipation. If his guy is running a deep post, he's able to put it where his guy is supposed to be before his guy breaks for that deep post. So I think he is the most cerebral in this draft. I just don't think his ceiling's as high, and when you make that kind of trade, you got to go with the guy with the high ceiling. His floor is about the same as Justin Fields, so I'm gonna go with Justin Fields over Mac Jones. But yeah, I think as of right now, he is definitely the most cerebral, is what I'll say. Yeah, the Jets, they're not sticking with Darnold. They're not. It's just not going to happen. Mac Jones better be able to read defenses because he isn't that athletic. Yeah, he can. That's fine. My guy Carlos, what's up? Thank you for checking in. So Lance is only 20. Fields is 22. Give Lance 2 more years with an Ohio team, and he'll be able to do way more. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, we could say if he has an Ohio State team, but like I said, Ohio State's offensive line was trash this year. They were bad. They were bad. So Like, yeah, he did have crazy talented receivers. Garrett Wilson, he's going to be a first round pick next year. I like him a lot. Olave, he could be a first round pick next year too. I like him a lot. But the offensive line was bad. You could have those great receivers. But if your offensive line is terrible, that sucks. It's like the 49ers. They have Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but the offensive line wasn't good last year. Neither were the quarterbacks like Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, but hey, that's okay. Nate, yes, please, somebody drop him that Amazon link, please. I can't be going live at 8 p.m. every single night, man. I got a family. Can't do it. Sometimes we want to watch a movie. All right. Sometimes we want to watch a movie. Do you think race impacts the narrative of Lance Fields Jones, especially in the national? I think it can. I think it can, depending on who you're talking to. I don't like getting too political, but I think it can, especially in certain markets. I think it possibly can. I'll just leave it at that. I think it can. What if Wilson came out and says he does not want to play for the Jets? He already came out and expressed his interest. Well, yeah, at his pro day, he said that he's not going to say that because at his pro day, he said being drafted by the Jets would be a dream come true. I never heard him mention the Jets before. And then after his pro day, he says that. That means they probably had a steak dinner the night before, and the Jets said, hey, keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to take you. He obviously had that pro day and killed it in a t-shirt and shorts that I don't invest too much stock personally on, but he killed it. He's going to be a Jet. Yeah, if you see that clip after his pro day, he said becoming a Jet would be a dream come true. He'll be a Jet. Well, it probably wasn't his dream come true, but it'll happen. Do you think Fields is at 3? Oh, both of your guys' icon is purple, so I thought it was the same person asking it. Do you think Fields at 3? That's my gut right now. Things could change. Subject to change. Based on what I hear from sources, from people, from colleagues, and with colleagues from this industry, and from Shanahan himself, I think it's Fields. I think it's Fields. Subject to change, though. Do you think Fields is a better prospect than Herbert last year? That's tough. That's a real tough question. Because Herbert got overlooked last year. And you guys know I'm gonna be facts here. Like I'm not gonna do something or say something that I'm not. It's hey, I didn't look as much as Herbert last year because I was on a Jimmy Garoppolo honeymoon. 13-3 NFC champions. Why am I going to waste my time looking at Herbert? I'm not covering all NFL. I'm covering 49ers. But I've seen Oregon play quite a bit. And I was just reading a comment right now that made me laugh from Esteban. But I don't think so. I don't think Herbert's a better prospect. I think you could relate them and say, are they on the same level? Possibly. But I think Herbert had better natural arm talent than Justin Fields. Better natural arm talent than Justin Fields, and he had the mobility. It maybe not be the mobility as Fields. While that's great, it's at the end of the day you got to have the arm talent to play quarterback at the next level, and Herbert had that, and obviously he still has that. So I wouldn't say that they're on the same, or I wouldn't say Fields is a better prospect. I wouldn't. Period. Fields is was not a better prospect than Herbert last year. Oh, leave it up to Nate to be fighting with Macchiano here over Lance and field stands. Come on, guys. Let's be civil. Because one of those two are going to be the quarterback of the future. One of those two. So let's be civil. Fields at 1, Fields at 1, Lawrence at 2, and Wilson at 3. Who says no? Probably the Jags and the Jets, but that would be fantastic. I would be happy. But yeah, it's maybe if we could do a draft in Madden to make that happen, or we could drop on a PFF mock draft and we could do it that way. But then it's an elite false hope for reality. If you don't care about leaving false hope for reality, then let's do it. I'm all for it. Wilson at 3 for sure. Guys like a short Aaron Rodgers, skinnier one too. But yeah, I'm the same way. Lee Esteban, why? It's not gonna happen. But yeah, I've been on here for the past 56 minutes. If you guys want to talk some more, I'm more than willing to do it. If not, we could hop off here. But I appreciate all your comments. It was fun. I'm gonna try to do live more and just to engage with you guys. It was real fun. Talk with everyone soon. We'll see what happens.